Ladies and gentlemen, this is Reaction and this is the Sino-Soviet split explained by the channel History Matters. Yeah, so I don't know which video was that it popped up, basically this Sino-Soviet split. I don't know what the fuck is Sino-Soviet split. Then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is about how China and USSR basically didn't see eye to eye, let's just say. So yeah, I think it was after Stalin died, right? And the new leader came along. Was it Khrushchev? I don't know. Yeah, so the new leader came along, and obviously we saw how there was I just reacted to a video about how McDonald's and how Western chains came to USSR. So basically, USSR was kind of becoming more implementing some Western things, right? Like Pepsi, how Pepsi becomes sixth largest military because Russia gave them submarines for Pepsi, for fuck's sake. So, basically things like that were happening, and China, Mao, basically saw that like, oh, wait a minute, you're not communist anymore. I mean, you're not even, what you started as. You're just fake or something like that. Like, we are the real communist. You just gone. You just become more westernized or something. So they just split up. I don't think they became enemy or something. But they split up in a way that, they weren't agreeing on things, right? But they were still, I guess, economical friend or partner. I don't know. But yeah, that's the only knowledge I have of this. I don't know if there's more, complexity to that or what. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I like History Matters because History Matters obviously explain things in a very short period of time. And they explain all the core and important topics, which is surprising, in just 4 minutes. So yeah, let's watch it.
When most people think about the Cold War, they think about two ideological factions vying for global supremacy. What isn't often talked about is the infighting which occurred in both camps. The most important of these conflicts was the Sino-Soviet split, which saw the People's Republic of China denounce the USSR and go its own way. So what caused the split and what long-term effects did it have? Prior to the Second World War...
Long-term effect, basically, China's part is still communist. That's the long-term effect. So, Soviet Union fell, but not the China's version of communism, basically.
China was embroiled in a civil war which saw the communists fighting against the Chinese Republic. This conflict was halted when the Japanese invaded and both sides allied against the foreign threat, which was due in part to a great deal of pressure from a certain Joseph Stalin. The Japanese lost, and by the time of their surrender, China looked like this, with the USSR occupying Manchuria, which it promptly handed over to the communists and their leader Mao Zedong. The civil war resumed, and in the end, the communists won, giving the USSR a new powerful ally. Both sides signed a friendship treaty in 1950, and so things were looking up for both of them. Also, unlike the communist states in Eastern Europe, China was an independent nation, and Moscow couldn't appoint or dismiss its leaders, nor control its internal policy. Since it was independent, this led to the Chinese leadership applying the communist model in a
Imagine that. Stalin and his basically group goes there. Oh, change those assholes. We don't like that. And Mao's like, yeah, no, we're not going to do it. What do you mean you're not going to do it? You're Soviet. I just told you what to do. We are USSR. Yeah, but I'm communist because I choose to. I'm not one of you.
fundamentally different way to the USSR. Stalinism and Maoism were rapidly diverging, and this difference became even more pronounced when Stalin died and was succeeded by Nikita Khrushchev. The divisions between the two communist states...
Wait a minute, divide was happening when Stalin was there in the end? I thought they just got along perfectly until the Stalin was there. After Stalin died, everything went to shit. But apparently, even before he died, they were kind of splitting up, right? Their ideas and ideologies.
Internal and external policies. In terms of internal policy, the USSR disagreed with Mao's Great Leap Forward and its implementation. Mao's approach to change saw the Chinese government hastily reform agriculture and demand that it output unreasonable amounts. These policies exacerbated a major drought which hit China between 1959 and 1961, which saw the deaths of at least 15 million people.
Oh.
To make matters worse, Mao also opted to continue with the policy of exporting grain.
Wait a minute, so when you see like which one dictator or one person killed the most people and Mao is the top of it because of that? Because of that 50 million, drought that happened?
Because he wanted China to look like it was a wealthy, well-fed country. Furthermore, Mao disliked the reforms undertaken by Nikita Khrushchev, which he felt were fundamentally uncommunist. Mao also saw Khrushchev's use of the Red Army to put down the 1956 Hungarian Revolution as delegitimizing communism internationally, which brings us on to conflicts over foreign policy. Khrushchev had taken a different approach to the USSR's relationship with the West and had pursued a policy of peaceful coexistence. When a series of foreign policy clashes between the USSR and the USA ended with Khrushchev backing down, Mao decided concluded that communism needed a new leader, one who would confront the West on all fronts at every opportunity. Whilst these may sound like issues which could have been papered over, for Mao and Khrushchev, ideological purity was a matter of life or death for communism. In the end, these disagreements led to the USSR formally breaking off diplomatic relations with the PRC in late 1961. In mid-1962, Mao opted to break off relations with the USSR, and hereafter the communist world was fractured and would remain so. During the Cold War, China never managed to take leadership of the communist world, but it did have some communist states which opted to follow the principles of Maoism. And whilst the division of the communist states of the world was overwhelmingly in favour of the Soviet Union, it did present it with new difficulties. The 1960s saw China embrace a much more aggressive foreign policy, which saw it develop its own nuclear weapons and also fight border conflicts with Taiwan, India and also the USSR. Although in the end, Mao switched from an ideological foreign policy to a pragmatic one, which saw him restore and even improve relations with the US and the West. The People's Republic of China hereafter pursued its own goals, and given that it outlasted the USSR, the Sino-Soviet split didn't seem to negatively affect it too much. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for watching, with extra thanks to my Patreon supporters, which you can see spinning 3 plays.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, yeah. So that's an understatement in a way. Like, look, USSR by the end, obviously we saw that McDonald's type of video from, what was the channel's name? I forgot the name, NK something, right? I did it yesterday. Check out in the link, I guess. You'll find it. It's one of the latest one. But yeah, in that we saw how USSR was slowly, getting more, liking more Western things, right? Pepsi, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, this and that. And Mao obviously saw that like, oh, fuck that. You're no longer communist. But the thing is, the idea of communism that you being, sure you trade with other people, but you keep your values and core what it is, and you don't get dependent on other westernized countries too much. You do your own thing. Is kind of true in how China is going today, right? So China 2 decades ago was completely different than what it is now, right? That is ridiculous. But obviously China with its big population, and I guess also the communism, that just gives the government an edge in a way that they can speed certain processes that democracy can't. So combined with big population and the speed process, China became like a factory of the world where everybody kind of did, basically build shit in China with cheap labor, and China's economy just grew while China stayed true to its core, right? They didn't get westernized, right? They still stayed communist. Even today, you'll find that China is still doing their own thing inside, right? I mean, I'm sure there are certain things that you could say like this is westernized, but the party is cracking down on all of them. Like, we need to have our own identity. We need to stay communist rather than become westernized, right? And they are becoming, really powerful, I guess. They are, predicted to be, the powerful country after certain time, which is ridiculous. But yeah. I mean, India has also the biggest, I guess, right? It's now the biggest population. So India also has population. It can also have factories and shit. But India is a democracy, so it's a slow-moving process. While China is a big, big population, but it can just, speed run certain processes. And certain things, right? Certain rare earth elements and certain materials can only be found in China. That is also an edge. So yeah. But yeah, Sino-Soviet split. USSR basically got dissolved, kind of become westernized, while China didn't, and it's still going. And unlike USSR, it looks like that it's gonna be more successful in the future. Which I don't even know how we gonna, after a few decades, how we're gonna envision communism to be. If communism becomes successful, if communism is the top of the food chain, top country, what do you think then? Like, holy shit. Obviously, the ideas are not gonna change. Freedom, right? Democracy and how, with all its flaws, how good democracy is not going to change. People are still going to like, personal freedoms are more important than any successful thing, right? That's not going to change. But still, seeing that a communist country where, I guess, good of the nation come first rather than the people and their individual rights, that country is more powerful than any country in the world. How's that going to work, right? What people are going to think seeing that? And is that going to influence other countries to adopt that? Who knows? Alright, well, that was the Sino-Soviet split explained by the channel History Matters. If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you next time.